Good morning, everybody, and happy Tuesday. It is time to talk travel, and you know what's coming. This weekend, Memorial Day weekend, woo, 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 for the time off work, right? First, let's just remember that's not what this holiday is about. This holiday is about remembering, memorializing our lost soldiers, people who've died in the line of duty. So at least, no matter where you are, what you're doing, take 5 minutes at least to kind of talk with your kids, or even just think through in your mind and say a silent prayer for those who are still fighting, and to remember kind of what the day is about. I love to tell my kids, we've been to the National Memorial Cemetery here in Atlanta, and it'll change you. It'll change you. And I know I have several friends who are still serving, and I'm at the age now where friends have children who are serving. And so let's kind of keep that in mind. But on the travel side of things, if you're heading out of town, which a lot of people are, according to the AAA, almost 42 million people, 42 million are going to be traveling over the holiday. And they say that is the most in a dozen years. And I was kind of surprised it's only the most in a dozen years. I was thinking, you know what, that's probably the most ever. But 42 million people, do you know what that means? You're going to have company on the road, in the air, on the trains, in the buses. I mean, everybody is going to be out there. And they are saying you really, really need to prepare for heavy duty traffic delays. Essentially, they're saying that, the traffic is going to be at the worst on Thursday. Not even Friday, guys. Thursday, lots of people are taking Friday off. But not just that, it's actually even going to be much heavier Wednesday, tomorrow. So people are making almost a week of this holiday. And so let me go through the stats. Like I said, AAA loves to send out these statistics, and why not share them with you, right? It says that an estimated 36.6 million people likely will travel by car, and then more than 3 million are going to travel by air. So expect the airports to be more crowded. 6%, that's almost 7%, 6.8% increase from last year, as well as 1.8 million traveling by bus. Isn't that an interesting statistic? I don't know a lot of people who still travel by bus, although I will tell you that has changed a bit with Megabus. I even took a Megabus a couple of years back just because I wanted to know what the experience was. They were promoting like bus trips for $1. I think I had a flight. I needed to be in Toronto for a conference, and flying into Toronto was like $500, where flying into Buffalo was closer to $200. So I said, well, why not just take a bus? I'll fly into Buffalo and then take the bus up because, they exist. Why not? And I was comparing Megabus to like Greyhound or what have you. And both are really reasonable, but Megabus, when you can find fares for like $1, I think I might have paid $12 to get there. And what I liked is it had promoted free Wi-Fi and electrical outlets at the seats. And I thought, this is a great way to travel because I can work while I'm doing it. And I counted on that. And I will tell you, not necessarily, don't count on it, because it works while the bus is in the train station. It does not always work while you're driving. And I got in a little bit of trouble at work with that one because I had a deadline. I was trying to get things in and I couldn't get the signal to send it. So don't count on that. But at any rate, really, really inexpensive, especially if you're like a college student. I bought them for my college kids in both cases, from New Orleans and from Birmingham, Megabus. So that was perfect. Again, for, if you and you can even get seats up top. They've got double deckers. They're actually a pretty cool way to travel if you're okay with traveling other people, which I think that 20-something set, perfect. You connect with some really cool people. But to get back to the Memorial Day travel, okay, so we just talked about 1.8 million traveling by bus, train, or cruise ship. I didn't even think about a cruise for Memorial Day. That could be fun, right? And they say that's up 2% from 2017 in spite of the higher gas prices, and that is where they get you. I just gassed up or filled my tank 2 days ago, which, again, I have to fill again because I've been all over town. And prices are back up again. I was kind of crying at it. It was, let me see. Well, I'll get into the gas prices in a minute. Let's go back to how heavy the traffic is going to be and when it's going to be. I mentioned earlier that delays delays. Can you tell them what's other delays? That's the anchor voice. Delays are expected to be up to 3 times worse than normal on major roads. So, and the worst of the congestion is expected to start late afternoon Thursday. So people are going to work, get off early Thursday, cut out half day, and then hit the road. Wednesday, all the way through Friday is going to be heightened congestion though. So tomorrow it's already starting. So just leave today, right? Sorry for the scratched voice. I'm fighting some kind of summer cold, I guess. Oh. So anyways, New York's supposed to have the worst delays. Like it's supposed to, trips there from Friday from like 3:30 to 6:30 are supposed to take 2.7 times longer than the normal time. Welcome to every day in Atlanta in the afternoon. If you ever drive through Atlanta, I tell people, I'm sorry if you don't know enough to check the schedule to see when the Braves are playing, where the Falcons are playing, when Atlanta United's playing, because all of that's going to slow you down. We just call it the Atlanta Insider Secret. But anyways, okay, so avoid the peak commute times. I'm the girl who will get up at 4 a.m. and drive so that I don't have to deal with the extra traffic. I'm not one, I know my limits. I cannot, after 10, I am so tired that I'm useless. I'm that person that doesn't need to be on the road driving that late. So I usually will bunk down, but early morning for me is perfect. They're saying avoid the peak commute times, which are traveling late morning and early afternoon. So that's kind of interesting to me. Gas prices. Let's talk gas prices. Get out your wallet, kids, because it says average 2.27 per gallon, which is a 33-cent increase from last year. I paid more than that. I think I was almost at $3 a couple days ago, and I thought, what the hey? I thought it was $2.30 last week. They say it's an average price. Oh, you know what? The airfare is cheaper. And I talked about this last week. Everybody complains that airfares are so expensive. No, the airfares are really reasonable these days. But the extra fees are what are making you mad. But listen to this. They said the round trip average price for a flight is $168 along the top 40 domestic routes. And that's a decrease from last year. So that's pretty good. And they say, but still expect delays. They say historically there's been a year-over-year decrease or increase in delays, which I find very interesting. I thought there was this big push for everybody to be on time and they would get criticized. I think that's gone out the window now. I mean, you know what? It's still give me the rock bottom price, get there. And if it means I have to wait an extra 10 minutes, 30 minutes, it's almost like that's normal route now. Which is really interesting for someone like me who flies all the time. I expect to take off when my flight says it's going to take off. And that's, to me, where they need to put the emphasis on customer service if they want happier flyers. But at any rate, I thought that was interesting. They said the proportion of flights that get delayed over Memorial Day weekend has increased every year. The worst delays before Memorial Day weekend are seen at JFK and LaGuardia. In New York with an average 62.6 and 61.5 minutes respectively. So essentially a whole hour. You're going to take off a whole hour later is what they're saying. And you can't count on it because you know what? If it's not a whole hour later and, the flight does take off normal time, you don't have that cushion. So that's interesting. And then, okay, let's just talk about if you're at the airport and you do have delays, you do have cancellations, you do have those things, know your rights. And I talked about this a little bit, but there are a couple things you should know before you go to the ticket counter and you try and fix anything. A lot of people will turn to the app instead because you might be able to get a spot with the app before you can get it at the ticket counter. I personally would rather deal with the live person right in front of me where I know if they say, hey, listen, you can run down to this gate, which has happened to me before. We've got another flight taking off in 15 minutes. If you can get to that gate, I've got your name on that list. So work those contacts, get to that counter and tell them, listen, I've got to be there. You know what? I get this flight's delayed. Put me on that one. Put me on that one. And think about other airports because in this case, I was flying into LaGuardia and the flight was delayed and I went and it was United. So that'll tell you this is a long time ago because I haven't flown them in a while, but I went to the gate and they said, well, we actually have a flight taking off in 10 minutes. They're about to close the gate. If you can run to that gate, which I did, if you can run to that gate, we'll get you on that flight. And it ended up being better. It was flying into Newark instead of LaGuardia, but I don't care. When I fly into New York, I always take the airport shuttle. So it doesn't matter which airport I'm going to. And it was better because that was a direct flight instead of a connecting flight. So that never, don't assume that you just have to sit there and wait until they say, okay, we're taking off. You literally can go to the gate and you can say, listen, I would absolutely love to hop on another flight. It's okay if it's a surrounding airport. I mean, in New York, you have that option. A lot of other cities, you're kind of out of luck. Like if you want to fly into Atlanta, you're really just going to fly into Hartsfield-Jackson and you have to take it. But you might be able to say, are there other flights I can jump into? And they shouldn't charge you. But let's talk about the passenger rights. In case you do have that flight delay, like they're saying, expect an hour flight delay for JFK and LaGuardia this weekend. That's how bad it's gotten and how accepted it's gotten, right? So passenger rights, they're saying they could soon be diminishing like legroom. Like, you know what? We have no more legroom. Now we have no more passenger rights. And I have a tip on legroom too, if you want. You know what? I'm just going to throw this in here because I know I'll get distracted. Legroom, if that is important to you, there is a website called Seat Guru, where you can go online when you're picking your seat and it will show you where that seat is on the plane, but also show you how much legroom you get with it. That's a big deal if you've got long legs or if you've got like a condition where you're worried about, deep vein thrombosis or something like that and you want to be able to get up, or if you have a kid in your lap, and you want to have a little extra wiggle room for them to kind of stand up, or what the deal is. But the point is, Seat Guru, if you want to have that inside scoop before you get on the plane. Meantime, back to flyers' rights, back to what happens if you get canceled. So the airlines at this point have asked the government to stop regulating customer service issues. Imagine that. They want the government to get out of it because, they got it. They're all good because their customer service has been that stellar. Sarcasm is strong with me, kids. So at any rate, we shall see if that happens. But they're saying that there are rules that are in the passengers' rights that are in jeopardy at this point because of what the airlines are requesting. So pay attention to that. But the rules cover everything from like their responsibilities to you if they've canceled your flight or lost luggage or policies about unaccompanied children. So all of this is sort of in limbo right now. But what still stands, what you do need to know before you get on that flight, know that the federal regulations are still on the books. And you could probably pull this up online if you're stuck in the airport and you don't know really, okay, what is my real right here? Please don't be my mother. My mother is that person that will sit there and take whatever they say and go, okay. She never wants to rock the boat. I am the girl who's going to say, fix this now, because I'm not going to spend all day waiting for you to fix my flight. Make it right. Okay. And you know what? Here's a term that we learned in news business. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So the person who's loudest and the person who's, insistent is going to be the one they help first. Okay. Then they might get to you if you're the quiet person, like my mom in the background going, okay, whatever you say. God love her. But I feel like I wish I could just be on her shoulder all the time saying, Mom, fight, get in there. Anyways, so your rights, to get to the point. Okay, so you have, under the government's 24-hour rule, as it's known, travelers can cancel a flight within 24 hours of booking it. Okay, so this applies on the front end, and I talked about it last week. If you see a real airfare steal, my sister talked about this with me this week. She's like, I can't understand how you book flights. Like I booked my flight to Hawaii, booked my flight to Puerto Rico, because they were steal deals. They were, it was super cheap, like $230 to go to Puerto Rico round trip. And she said, but how do you book something when you don't even know where you're going to stay? That's such a gamble. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You book it, you get the deal, and then you go figure out where you're going to stay. You have a whole day. You have a whole day to figure it out. And you know what? If you find you just can't, there's nothing reasonable. Maybe there's a big event in town and all the hotels are booked. You can cancel that flight. There's a 24-hour rule in place. You can cancel it within 24 hours. Got it? So book it. Then cancel if it doesn't work. But at least you got the deal. So back to that. So you have that. You can, what are the other deals? Blah, blah, blah. So many. Okay. That's for flights originating in the U.S. Sometimes I get excited and I start talking faster. But, it says, okay, so if a flight originating in the U.S. is overbooked when you get to the airport, you could receive up to $675 if your substitute transportation arrives between 1 and 2 hours late, or after the original flight was scheduled, or you can get up to $1,350 for delays over 4 hours on international flights. I know I'm throwing out a ton of numbers here. I'm going to put a link in the side of this so that you guys can see what I'm talking about, and it'll walk you through where all your rights are. But it says read the airline's contract of carriage, because that's where you will find what each company says it will do for you. Okay? And they might not volunteer this information. So no, you're going to want to Google contract of carriage. And some of them are vague. Some, they may provide hotel accommodation in case of cancellation, for example, but others are more specific. This happened to me when I flew JetBlue from Atlanta to Boston last year. And I was really flying from Boston to Barcelona, and I was jumping on a steal of a deal, essentially. And I just knew I've got friends in Boston who I really, really would love to see. So I said, I'll schedule a flight there, and figured I'd have the whole day. Well, what ended up happening is the flight got delayed a whole day, which made me miss my Barcelona flight, which in the end worked out really well. But the bottom line is JetBlue then had to pay for my hotel for the night in Boston, which was a bonus for me. I got to see more friends. They had to pay for my food. They had to pay for my Uber or Lyft ride from the airport to the hotel where we were staying. So in the end, it was bonus for me. I had no problem with it. Luckily, I didn't have anything in Barcelona scheduled for the first day I was there, because after that I had, a cool Game of Thrones exhibit. I had things that I had tickets for that would have stunk to miss. So that's another tip. If you're scheduling something, wait, don't make all your excursions the first day, because there's a really big chance you'll lose it with delays. But let's get back to the flight. So the DOT outlines passenger rights regulations on its site. So you can go to the Department of Transportation, look for passenger rights there, Google it, and you can file a consumer complaint if you want. However, I say go to the airline first, see if they'll make it right. We had delays on Frontier Airlines. My whole family of 6 was flying out there a year and a half ago. It was Christmas, the week before Christmas, I believe, or it might have been the week in between Christmas and New Year's. I can't remember, but we were flying Frontier. Frontier doesn't let you bring bags. So we decided as a family of 6, we were going to check one bag because I'm cheap. We checked one suitcase, but all 6 tickets were booked under one name. Okay? So keep following me here. We flew out. Our bag was there. Everything was fine. We flew home to Atlanta. Our bag wasn't on that flight. So even though we were back in Atlanta, where we really didn't have to buy anything, didn't have to do anything, it was okay. It would have been horrible if that had happened on our way to Denver. But flying home, we could live without our ski clothes. We didn't need all that. But because the bag was delayed, Frontier had to pay us, I want to say it was like $30 a person a day for that bag. And because there were 6 of us on that flight, all 6 of us were given, or on that booking, all 6 of us were given the delayed amount. And it ended up being probably $900, which is more than we paid for our flight, for a bag that was delayed on the way home that we didn't even need. And Frontier was fabulous. But here's some of the important things you need to know about that. We let them know immediately. I got the claim. In fact, I didn't even leave the airport without my bag. Okay. I went straight to the Frontier office, got the form I needed to fill out, found out from them what exactly they wanted, receipts. They wanted stuff. So you know what I did? I did a little Christmas shopping. I had this $900 check. Okay, the kids could always use new underwear. They can always use new socks. They can always use a new pair of pants, a new shirt. And so everybody got new outfits on Frontier's dime because they were one day late with our bag. So there is a way to work this to your advantage. And they were fabulous about it. I mean, you have to keep the receipts, you pay it up front, and then they reimburse you, but they were super, super about it. So I don't always say it's a bad thing when your bag doesn't show up. Keep that in mind. But go to these passenger rights sites. I will put the links in the column there so that you see it. But I'll even put in the link for each individual airlines, like American, Delta, Frontier, JetBlue, Southwest, United. Those are the big ones right now, right? Those are the ones that I would say, but they're very specific. Like, okay, so for example, American Airlines says, if we don't board to your final destination before 11:59 p.m., remember, don't board, not don't take up, but if we don't board by this time, we'll arrange an overnight stay at your connecting airport if available. Do you hear all the loopholes that fall out of that sucker? If you don't board, so you know darn well they're going to get you on that plane. You might be sitting there for a couple hours, but if you don't board, so there are all these caveats. Look at them, be careful with them, but also nice. I said, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but be kind about it. When you go up to the gate, let them know you're not a raging witch. You are, what? Listen, I'm a serious traveler. I do this all the time. I need you to connect me, hook me up with all the right resources, and let's make this work. You really don't have to be ugly about it, but I will tell you, don't be the little wallflower either. Don't sit there quietly like my mom and just say whatever works, because I'm telling you, you'll be sitting in the airport sleeping all night, which will be a whole another episode I will do on this, because in all honesty, that's interesting too. I did that once last year. We were flying to Seattle and we had a layover in Denver, and it was like 4 hours in the middle of the night. It was insane. And so I told my daughter, we're not going to go get a hotel. We are just going to plant it right here in the airport. She, to this day, insists, I will never sleep in an airport again. That's what she said. She hated it that much. I personally was cool with it. I'm a people watcher, so I kind of walked around the airport. I took pictures of people. Some people were really good at this. You could tell they do it all the time, because they'd had their backpack walked in through their arm, using it as a pillow, and they'd use like a bungee cord to wrap their suitcase handle around their legs. It was insane. But here's my good takeaway tip on this. If you are ever stuck in an airport and you need sleep, you can't lie down on the seats that are there, because they have the armrests that are fixed to keep you from being able to sleep. Go to the cathedral, or go to the airport church. You can sleep across a whole church pew. There's my tip for the day. Okay, so I'm going to go back through. Okay, European airlines are required to offer accommodations, even if a delay is not their fault. So, it applies back and forth. Now, if you're flying to the U.S. from Europe, it applies to U.S. airlines as well. All these special passenger rights rules, which I said are all in jeopardy right now. The airlines are trying to convince Congress to drop them. And we don't want that, guys. We need all the rights we can get. So here's another one. European airlines are required to offer accommodations even if a delay is not their fault. So say like in 2010 when the volcano erupted in Iceland and it grounded all the flights to Europe, because consumer rights are stronger in the EU than they are in the US, then they say book with an airline registered in the EU, because you're going to have more rights there. So think of all the others, like, Aeroflot and SAS, and pay attention to that stuff if you're flying to Europe. I personally go by where I have my rewards points or the best rate. But if you want additional rights, be thinking of airlines registered in the EU. Ask for compensation immediately. So, if you're being, bumped, you can ask for a voucher or money for being bumped for the hotel you're going to stay in. In my case, when it happened with Boston, and we ended up stuck in London overnight for an extra day, which to me, not a problem. I was going to Barcelona. I just got to see another country. I love London. My daughter hadn't been yet. So we spent the night in London, and I'm telling you, we landed at the airport. We got on the train, and we went and saw it all. Big Ben was covered in scaffolding, but this was just November. But we made the most of it. And then we ended up staying in the airport hotel, which I booked off like Hotel Tonight before I took off from Boston. So all these tricks, I'll share them with you in the notes, and I'll try and do a post too. But ask for the bumper or the voucher compensation if you're bumped during your delay while you're still at the airport. Okay, that way you don't have to pay out of pocket necessarily. They'll be paying for it. I'm usually the one who pays out of pocket, and then I'm reimbursed. which is kind of a pain because I know with the last one, it probably took 2 or 3 months before I got my money. So, once you're home and you contact the so-called like customer service, they have so many more ways of saying no to you. You know what? Don't let that happen. Take care of it right there at the airport. And if you submit like a written thing to them after the fact, cite the specific rules that you know exist so they know you're not one of those customers they can mess with. You know what? I know I get this, this, and this. Make it happen. And they will. You can negotiate your compensation. The airlines now will say, you know what? They'd rather give you a voucher than cash. So, you don't have to take the first offer. Like, remember the case last year, the United passenger that was bumped from the flight? Instead of accepting a $2,000 voucher, do you remember she got $10,000 for jumping off a flight? At the time, United was sort of under the barrel because they were in a little bit of trouble, but they didn't want to give cash. So they gave a $10,000 bump voucher. I volunteer for that every day of the week. So, and if you are stranded in an airport and the contract of carriage doesn't provide a hotel room, then some of the airlines will actually still provide private accommodations. So you just have to ask. They won't just give it out. Go to the counter and say, listen, I'm stuck and I'm not sleeping here in the airport. Make it right. And they said, choose patience over ranting. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, but not the ugly, screaming, mean squeaky wheel. And they said you'll get a lot more out of it if you're calm and polite. My last tip, this one is golden for me every single time. Tweet the airline. Tweet them. Tweet to them. I had this happen again. There was a Frontier flight where my ex booked a flight and thought he booked a flight for his daughter as well, my daughter. He got to the airport. I was at a conference somewhere, and he said, we have a problem. They have a flight for me. They don't have one for Daly, our daughter. I'm like, well, you can't exactly leave her at the airport, can you? So I started tweeting to Frontier, please, can you help him? Because he had paid like $160 for his flight, and they were wanting $400 or $500 at the airport. So essentially, I tweeted to them and said, listen, we're stuck. He's there. He's got a kid. There's no way we're leaving her at the airport. I'm in another state. Help us out. And Frontier did. So when you tweet the airlines and try and keep it public, they're always going to say, hey, message us over here to discuss it. Well, that's their way of getting it off the public stream where they want just to hit, they want to keep the disgruntled people in this corner. So stay on the public stream as long as you can, because they know the more eyeballs that see that, the worse it is. And use those hashtags, man. Tap into every network you have, travel, help me out, all of those hashtags that will matter. And if you're part of a network, like I was part of Traveling Mom, I could hashtag Traveling Mom, and I knew I would have 40 other people retweeting that. That's gold, pure gold. So deal with it right there. So those are my tips, okay? My takeaways, I guess if I had to pick 3 out of this long time to talk travel today. First one, if you're traveling for Memorial Day, avoid Thursday afternoon, avoid Friday afternoon. Like if you can go early morning Thursday, that's better. But AAA is saying we have more people on the roads than ever this year. And the advice is to that a lot of people are even leaving Wednesday, tomorrow. So avoid those high times. Thursday afternoon and Friday are like the heightened times. So try and avoid that if you can. And know your rights if you do get a delay. And they're saying, the worst of the delays for airline traffic are going to be in JFK and LaGuardia. But if you are faced with a delay, kind of pull up, even look it up in advance. Know in advance kind of, hey, look, I am going to, these are my passenger rights, so that you have a general idea if something happens. And then in the end, again, this works every time. Tweet them. Facebook doesn't have the same, Instagram doesn't have the same, but when you tweet, it's almost instantaneous. And again, squeaky wheel gets the grease. Just don't be rude, squeaky wheel. Be insistent, squeaky wheel. And you will enjoy your travels much more. All right, you guys enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. This girl is sitting tight. I hope to just be on the water boating. Beyond that, have a great week. If you've got other tips, drop them in the comment section. You guys enjoy your week. Next Tuesday, guess where I'll be? On the way to Hawaii. So my time to talk travel Well, I think that's in the afternoon. So I might be doing it from here, talking about getting ready for a big trip like that. So bucket list trips. So wouldn't that be good? I'll think about it. Anyways, have a great week, you guys. Enjoy.